It was a peaceful morning on Mount Kailash, where Parvati, the consort of Lord Shiva, was preparing for her daily bath. The birds chirped melodiously, and the soft breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. But despite the serenity around her, Parvati felt the need for someone she could trust to guard her privacy. So, from the sandalwood paste she used for her bath, she molded a figure, one that would come to life as her son, Ganesha. She lovingly breathed life into him, and the small boy with a radiant face stood before her. "My dear son," Parvati said, her voice gentle yet firm, "I'm going to bathe now. Stand guard at the entrance and allow no one to enter." Ganesha, filled with a sense of duty and pride, nodded and replied, "Yes, mother, no one shall pass without your permission." Parvati smiled warmly at her creation and retreated into her quarters. Meanwhile, Lord Shiva, Parvati's husband, returned to Mount Kailash after meditating in the mountains. He had not yet met his newly created son and was unaware of the little guardian standing at the entrance. As Shiva approached, Ganesha blocked his way, standing tall and resolute. "Halt! You may not enter without my mother's permission," Ganesha announced boldly. Shiva, unaccustomed to being denied access to his own home, was taken aback. "Do you not know who I am, child? I am Shiva, the Lord of Kailash," he said, his voice booming with authority. But Ganesha, obedient to his mother's command, stood his ground. "I do not care who you are. My mother asked me not to let anyone enter, and that includes you." Shiva's patience wore thin. He was not used to being challenged, especially by a child. Frustration turned to anger, and in a moment of divine fury, Shiva summoned his trident. "Move aside, boy," he growled, his eyes burning with power. But Ganesha remained steadfast, his unwavering loyalty to his mother enraging Shiva further. In a swift motion, Shiva raised his trident and, before Ganesha could react, struck him down. The force of the blow was fatal, and Ganesha's head rolled to the ground. Silence fell upon the mountain, and the stillness of death filled the air. As the gravity of his actions settled in, Shiva's anger dissipated, replaced by a deep sense of regret and sorrow. Just as Shiva was grappling with the weight of his mistake, Parvati emerged from her chambers, the gentle sound of her anklets filling the air. But her steps faltered as her gaze fell upon the lifeless form of her beloved son, Ganesha, lying motionless on the ground. Her heart froze. "No, no," she gasped, her voice trembling with disbelief. In an instant, she rushed to Ganesha's side, her hands shaking as she cradled his small, still body. Tears streamed down her face, falling like heavy rain upon his chest. "My child, my beautiful boy, what have you done, Shiva?" Her voice cracked as she looked up, eyes burning with grief and betrayal. How could you take him from me?" Shiva, standing a few paces away, was paralyzed by the sight of Parvati's devastation. He had faced demons, gods, and cosmic battles, but nothing compared to the crushing guilt he felt in that moment. He took a hesitant step forward, reaching out. "Parvati, I didn't know," he stammered, his voice faltering. "I acted out of anger, I thought—" But his words were cut off by the force of Parvati's rising fury. "You thought what?" Parvati spat, her voice laced with venom. She pulled Ganesha's body closer to her chest, shielding him, as if to protect him from any more harm. "You, Shiva, the destroyer of worlds, have destroyed my world, my heart, my soul, everything I hold dear." Her cries seemed to pierce the very fabric of the heavens. In that moment, Parvati's grief turned into a storm of wrath. The ground beneath them shook violently as the sky grew dark, swirling clouds blocking out the sun. The winds howled like anguished spirits, and the gods, watching from afar, shuddered in fear. Parvati's power surged, her sorrow fueling her rage. "If my son is not returned to life," she declared, her voice now cold as steel, "I will tear apart the universe itself." Shiva, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, fell to his knees before her, his hands trembling as he clasped them together in desperation. "Parvati, please, I beg of you," he pleaded, his eyes wide with sorrow. "I acted out of ignorance. I did not know who he was. I did not realize he was our son. Please, tell me how I can make this right. I will do anything, anything." His voice broke, and for the first time, Shiva, the mighty god, was utterly powerless. Parvati's eyes, red with fury and swollen with tears, narrowed as she gazed at him. The winds whipped around them, yet she remained eerily calm. "Bring him back, Shiva," she whispered through clenched teeth, her voice sharp as a blade. "Bring him back, or I will destroy everything. This world, the heavens, even the gods themselves, all will fall." Her words hung heavy in the air, and Shiva could feel the weight of her wrath pressing down upon him. Shiva's heart pounded as he rose to his feet, determination mingling with regret. "I will bring him back, Parvati. I swear it," he promised, his voice steady but filled with remorse. Without another word, he turned and left to seek a way to restore their son. The world watched in silence, holding its breath as the fate of the universe now hung in the balance. Sensing the danger of Parvati's fury, the other gods quickly assembled. Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, stepped forward. "Shiva, we must act quickly," he said. "We cannot let Parvati's grief destroy the world." Together, they devised a plan. Vishnu advised that a head be found for Ganesha to restore his life. Shiva, along with his trusted companions, set out in search of a suitable head to replace the one he had severed. "But where will we find a head worthy of a god?" one of the companions asked. Shiva's response was resolute. "We must find the head of the first living creature we come across." As they ventured into the forests, they encountered Gajasura, a powerful demon in the form of a giant elephant. Gajasura had been terrorizing nearby villages for some time, and Shiva saw this as an opportunity. "I will defeat him and use his head to bring back our son," Shiva declared. The battle was fierce, with Gajasura unleashing all his might. But Shiva, in his fierce form, was unstoppable. Shiva's rage and sorrow fueled his strength, and with a final blow from his trident, he vanquished the demon. Gajasura's body fell to the ground, and as the demon's spirit left, his elephant head remained. Shiva knelt beside the fallen beast, knowing that this head would be the one to restore life to Ganesha. Carrying the elephant's head, Shiva and his companions hurried back to Mount Kailash. The sky was still heavy with the weight of Parvati's grief, and the earth trembled with every step. "There is no time to waste," Shiva said, his voice filled with urgency. The other gods followed closely, knowing that their actions now would determine the fate of the world. Back at Kailash, Parvati still held Ganesha's lifeless body, her tears flowing endlessly. Shiva approached her slowly, holding the elephant head in his hands. "Parvati, I will make this right," he promised. With a deep breath, Shiva placed the head upon Ganesha's body and chanted powerful mantras. Divine energy surged through the air as the gods watched in silence. As the mantras reached their peak, Ganesha's body began to stir. His eyes fluttered open, and he took a deep breath. Parvati's tears of grief transformed into tears of joy. "My son," she cried, embracing him. Ganesha, now with the head of an elephant, looked up at his parents, confused but alive. Shiva, filled with relief, knelt beside them. "I have brought you back, my son," he whispered. Ganesha touched his new elephant head, feeling its shape and texture. He looked at his mother and father, trying to comprehend what had happened. Why do I look like this?" he asked. Shiva, placing a hand on his shoulder, replied, "You are now more than before, Ganesha. Your new form is a symbol of strength, wisdom, and devotion." Parvati, still holding Ganesha close, looked at Shiva. Though her heart ached for what had happened, she knew that her husband had made amends. "I forgive you, Shiva," she said softly, her voice filled with the warmth of a mother's love. "But never forget what you took from me. Our son's new life will remind us both of the consequences of anger." The other gods gathered around the family, offering their blessings to Ganesha. Brahma, the creator, spoke first. "You, Ganesha, will be revered as the remover of obstacles, a guide for all who seek knowledge and wisdom." Vishnu added, "May you be a symbol of strength and perseverance, beloved by gods and humans alike." From that day forward, Ganesha was recognized as a deity of immense importance. His elephant head became a symbol of his ability to overcome challenges, and his wisdom made him the patron of intellect and learning. Wherever his devotees faced difficulties, they would call upon Ganesha to remove the obstacles from their path. As Ganesha grew, he became known not just for his strength, but for his deep wisdom. His elephant head, once a symbol of tragedy, became a mark of his intelligence and insight. His large ears were said to hear the prayers of all his devotees, and his trunk, powerful yet gentle, symbolized his adaptability and resourcefulness. Despite the trials he faced, Ganesha remained compassionate, always ready to help those in need. Parvati, watching her son flourish, often reminded him of the day he was reborn. "Your strength is not in your body, Ganesha, but in your heart," she would say. "Use it wisely, for the world depends on your kindness." Shiva, too, was proud of his son. Though their relationship had begun with conflict, it evolved into one of deep respect and love. Shiva often marveled at Ganesha's ability to balance strength with gentleness. "You have become a god greater than I could have imagined," he would say, watching Ganesha help those who called upon him. Ganesha's elephant head became one of the most iconic symbols in Hindu mythology. It represented not only his transformation but the eternal truth that even the greatest obstacles can be overcome with wisdom, devotion, and compassion. His story, passed down through generations, continues to inspire millions to this day.